Do a quick mic check. There we go. Well, hey, everybody, welcome back to the show Conversations with Kenny, aka Swordfire X5. That's who I am. You know who I am. And I'm here tonight, Monday, March 8th, 2021, man. I am excited to have a conversation a little bit about astrology, dude, because those of you who know me know that I love astrology. I love talking about astrology. I love getting into astrology. Astrology is a deep subject, man. It is a deep subject. And it's not, when I'm talking about astrology, I'm talking about the interpretation of stars and planets and where they're at in the sky, not astronomy, which is just like looking at, planets and stars through a telescope from a scientific point of view, where astrology is not scientifically proven. Okay, it is a belief system, but it's not a religion either. I want to make that very clear that astrology is not a religion. It's not a philosophy, really. It's more of a language. It's a language that, from the universe to us to help kind of make sense of what's going on. And it's been used since the Babylonian times. But, that's what astrology is. And it goes so deep. And I'm only going to touch on it a little bit tonight. I'm not like an expert on astrology. I'm not an astrologer. I can read my birth chart a little bit, but it's a constant learning journey with astrology because, that's what life is about. Life is a journey, dude. And astrology to me has been as self-discovery tool. And I kind of want to get into that a little bit tonight about how I got into astrology and be kind of really open with my audience and about who I am and how I got to where I'm at and believe what I believe. And, I've been following astrology now for a couple years. I've been kind of really getting into it, and it started after my divorce. And not many people out there know this, but I got divorced a couple years ago, and that was really when I started to rediscover myself, and that rediscovery process, has to do with astrology. And I really didn't start to do that though until after I had already destroyed myself, if that makes sense. I couldn't figure out who I was until I had completely destroyed everything that I thought. You know what I mean? And I did. That's what it was. I was on a path of destruction. So after I did that, it became a journey of this discovery of like who I am, what I believe, because man, it was all up in the air. And I don't want to go too much into that tonight, but that's where it started for me was a couple years ago. I got into it and, you know, I started asking the universe like all these questions. You can call it God, you can call it universe. I call it the universe, dude, because I just feel like everything's been so distorted about what we're supposed to believe and what path we absolutely have to follow. So I don't really, think that, I don't want to give it a name. You can call it what you want, it doesn't matter. But I believe the universe, I asked the universe for answers, and really I didn't know who I was. And how can we know who we are, when we grow up, as children, developing these identities that are built around, what we are told is acceptable and not acceptable by society standards. That's the best way to put it. And so, you really have to start this unlearning process in order to really discover who you are. And so that's what astrology is meant to be. It's what it's done for me. And when I got the Aquarius tattoo on my arm with my natal chart, that was when I really started to kind of realize like who I am, you know. And I want to get in a little bit about natal charts. I want to talk about birth charts a little bit because that's like the starting point. And if you don't know what a natal chart is, it is a snapshot of the sky. It's a snapshot of where the planets were at the time you were born. And that's all it is. And it's when you look at it, it's actually in a graph that's divided into 12 zodiacs, and it's divided into houses. Okay. And that's kind of like the simplest. I mean, it gets really, complex, and there's so much to constantly learn. But you're when you look at your chart, you'll see numbers for houses, and you'll see different zodiac signs, and you'll see symbols of the planets and where they're at and which house they're in. And so when you do that, you're going to see your sun, and that's going to be your main one. You probably already know your sun sign, when your birthday is, and what zodiac sign is associated in that 30-day, in that cycle. So you probably know what your sun sign is, but do you know what your moon sign is? Do you know what your rising sign is? Do you know what your Mercury sign is, your Venus sign? All the planets, what zodiac were they in at the time you were born, and how does that really affect you? How does it, you know, how can you really figure out who you are by looking at that? And for me, what it really was, getting into astrology. One of the first things you're probably going to hear is, about Mercury retrograde. Well, what is Mercury? What the heck is a Mercury retrograde? Well, Mercury retrograde and Mercury is the planet of communication. It is the planet that rules over communicating, so in all aspects, in writing, in technology, communication, emailing, things like that, and learning. But on a personal level, it's how we communicate intellectually with one another. And so my Mercury is in Capricorn. So it's like when I realize that my Mercury and I communicate with Capricorn traits, I'm an Aquarius sun sign, yeah, but my traits for communicating are more on the Capricorn side, so, and that's how I learn, that's how I teach, that's, it's going to have those traits to it. So, it's really fascinating. And then your moon sign is your emotional self. It's your emotional side of your personality, per se. And so my moon is in a Leo, and I have like this fiery emotional side to myself, but that is what is the natal chart is. And you have all the other planets, you can look them up, and you can learn for yourself kind of what it means for when your Venus is in a certain zodiac, or your moon's in a certain zodiac, for example, and Jupiter and Saturn, and you can look up what those planets rule over, because they each rule over certain things, along with the houses. Your houses they rule over certain things as well, such as your family life. I think your fourth house rules over your relationships with your mother, family life, things like that. And then you have like your 12th house, which has to do a lot with, from what I understand, karma. So if you have a lot of planets in the 12th house, you may have a lot of karma debt to clear. That's just one example, and it's different for everybody, though. Everybody's natal chart is different. No two are exactly alike. So it's super fascinating, and that's what I love about it, and that's why I love conversations about it. Because those people that are looking at their natal charts as well, are not only using it as a self discovery tool, but I'm also noticing too, like, why do I communicate with some people better than with others? Is it because my Capricorn is in, or my Mercury is in Capricorn, and theirs is in, something else that is conflicting with my Capricorn? Whereas maybe somebody else with a Mercury and Capricorn I communicate really well with, or is compatible with communication. But that's kind of how I look at it. And so that's what I love about it, dude. That's why I'm into astrology, because there's so much more going on than we realize. And I feel like the planets, each have energies. I acknowledge the fact that Earth has its own energy. We can see that energy. We can feel that energy when we go outside, when we, are in the woods, when we're, at the lake, where we're next to these, when we're next to life, life force energy. And so, I believe the earth has energy. Well, I also believe the moon has energy, and I believe that all the planets have energy. And I believe that when they're moving around the sun, when we're rotating around the sun, there's different alignments and things. I really feel like that all has an effect on us. Okay. And maybe you've heard this from people that have worked in nursing homes or old folks homes or whatnot. But they say that on the full moon, people are all like wacky, dude. People are out of their mind, and it's because of that energy from the moon. It's why on a full moon, the wolves are howling, dude. It's why, the animals are running on a full moon. It's why they got the lunar charts for fishing and stuff, man. There's different gravitational pulls. And so that doesn't stop just with the moon. We have Mercury, we have retrogrades, we have, alignments and oppositions and squares and all kinds of things going on. It's mind boggling to me. It's absolutely mind boggling. And so that's just a basic kind of introduction to astrology. I'm not an astrologer, I'm not an expert, and like I said, and if you guys are interested in looking into your natal chart and discovering, what your moon sign is, what your rising sign is, and your all the planets and what they mean, a great app I recommend is Time Passages, and you can find it on the Apple Store and for Android. Excuse me. And I highly recommend that you guys check that out because it's got a beautiful layout to it, and it does a great job of explaining what the planets mean and where they're at in your zodiac. And you know it's absolutely fascinating. So I encourage you guys to check that out. And I'm looking forward to more talks about astrology. I kind of want to talk about Mercury retrograde a little bit more on another episode. We don't have one coming up anytime soon, I don't think. We just finished one, thankfully, but I do want to talk about that on another episode, so we'll get into that. But for just this episode, I want to touch on the natal chart a little bit and kind of my story with astrology, how I got into it, and how it has really been a discovery tool for me. So I encourage you guys to check that out, and I will see you on the next episode. This is Conversations with Kenny.